Hello, I'm Michael Rosen, and I'm going to say something really obvious. Shakespeare's plays and poems are full of language. Well, of course they are. They were written. Writing is words. Words are brought together to make language. Shakespeare wrote language. As I say, how obvious is that? But people like me go on and on about Shakespeare's language. We love talking about Shakespeare's language. Now, why would that be? Because we think it's special. We think there's something very special about how he put words together to talk about, well, many, many different things. But hey, not much point in me talking and talking about this language. Much better to get right in and show you what I mean about the language being special. Here's a poem about winter. When icicles hang by the wall, and Dick the shepherd blows his nail, and Tom bears logs into the hall, and milk comes frozen home in pail. When blood is nipped and ways be foul, then nightly sings the staring owl, to wit to woo, a merry note, while greasy Joan doth keel the pot. When all aloud the wind doth blow, and coughing drowns the parson's saw, and birds sit brooding in the snow, and Marian's nose looks red and raw, when roasted crabs hiss in the bowl, then nightly sings the staring owl, to wit to woo, a merry note, while greasy Joan doth keel the pot. So one or two things to tell you about here. Blows his nail means this. Watch. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm blowing breath onto my nails to make them warm, aren't I? Do you ever do that? And then when it says a merry note, well, that's what we might call ironic or even sarcastic, like this. A merry note, as if. And keel the pot means scouring out the saucepan, like this, you see? And the parson's saw means, well, that means when the parson is giving his sermon, when he's talking in the church. So I'll say it again, and while I'm saying it, see if you can conjure up the pictures as I'm saying it. When icicles hang by the wall, and Dick the shepherd blows his nail, and Tom bears logs into the hall, and milk comes frozen home in pail, when blood is nipped and ways be foul, then nightly sings the staring owl, to wit to woo, a merry note, while greasy Joan doth keel the pot. When all aloud the wind doth blow, and coughing drowns the parson's saw, and birds sit brooding in the snow, and Marian's nose looks red and raw, when roasted crabs hiss in the bowl, then nightly sings the staring owl, to wit to woo, a merry note, while greasy Joan doth keel the pot. Yes, you've got picture after picture of things that happen in winter, things you can see like icicles hanging, things that people are doing like carrying logs, things that you can hear like coughing and crabs hissing and the owl singing. So it's a seeing, doing, hearing poem about winter. And stringing those pictures together, stringing them together are two very simple words, when and with a bit of while thrown in too. Something else, everything going on in the poem is very, very ordinary. These are everyday things that you can see, hear, and that people do. So every day that we have very ordinary people's names, yes, people like Joan and Marian and Dick and Tom, and the language is very ordinary too, isn't it? There are no long, posh, complicated words. It's as if Shakespeare wanted to paint a picture of what winter is like for ordinary people. And you may also have noticed that the poem rhymes, but not absolutely regularly. You've got note paired with pot, or blow with saw, and that tells us that in some poems you can make kind of rhymes, or what are sometimes called half rhymes. So here's my suggestion. You could write a season poem, winter summer, spring, or autumn. Choose some people who are going to be in your season poem. Who's going to be in it? Now think of some very ordinary scenes in your season. Remember, seeing, hearing, and doing. Just make a list of them. Things that you can see, things you can hear, things that people are doing. Now you could do this in pairs, couldn't you? And when you've made your list, see if you can arrange them so that they sound good. Perhaps make them rhyme or half rhyme if you want to. And Shakespeare's poem had a chorus. That's when the owl is singing, isn't it? That's the chorus. So what would you like for your chorus? A car alarm going off? Doors slamming? A dog barking? Anything you want for your chorus. So there's two examples of how Shakespeare used language. To make a spell, that was the witches, and make a scene, as we saw with winter. Now how about something much shorter for you to think about? I've already mentioned Macbeth. Now Macbeth, he listens to the witches who give him the idea that one day he might become king. He then tells his wife, and between them they hatch a plot to kill the present king. It's all very horrible and gets worse. And it's not as if it makes Macbeth happy. He becomes more and more troubled. Here is one short thing that he says about himself. Full of scorpions is my mind. Let's have a think about that. Do you know what a scorpion is? Yes, it's a creature that looks a little bit like a little lobster. And its tail is a sting, but the sting doesn't go down like a wasp sting. It curls up and over the top of its body, and it has a little hook on the end so that when it stings something else, it hooks into that other creature's body. If you were to get a scorpion sting, it would hurt a lot and you could get ill from it. I remember one time I was on holiday with some French children and we were teenagers and we were sleeping in a barn in the countryside, and suddenly in the middle of the night one of the boys, Maurice, leapt up and shouted, "Aïe! C'est un scorpion!" It's a scorpion. And we put on our torches and it had stung him on his ribs, and believe me, it hurt a lot. Now Macbeth is saying, full of scorpions is my mind. Is his mind really full of scorpions? No, of course not. He's saying, I feel as if my mind is full of scorpions. But why? Because it feels as if what he's thinking about troubles him. He's disturbed. He's hurting. So first we can say that scorpions, that word, is a metaphor for that hurting feeling. They stand in place of saying that hurting feeling. That's what the scorpions are doing. Shakespeare's language is jammed full of metaphors. But something else. He could have written, full of nettles is my mind, or full of pinches is my mind, and maybe that would have expressed being hurt, but not hurt very much. So scorpions tells us that Macbeth means hurting a lot, or so much that it's like scorpion stings in his mind. We call that exaggeration, or the posh word, hyperbole. Hyperbole is great fun for writing, and Shakespeare obviously enjoyed it. So I've got a writing suggestion for you, and this is about coming up with metaphors or similes with hyperbole. You can make this as long or as short as you like. Any metaphor or simile you want, but see if you can do it with exaggeration, with hyperbole. I'll give you some ideas and then you come up with some of your own. Let's say you've got a tummy ache and you're trying to tell people, but no one is taking any notice of you. I've got a tummy ache. No one's taking any notice. So you decide to exaggerate. I've got a tummy ache. No one's listening. It's hurting. No one's listening. It feels like I've got a hedgehog in my tummy. Okay, so that's a simile, isn't it? It feels like, or it feels as if. Now let's get some hyperbole into it. And the hedgehog is jumping about. The prickles are sticking into my insides. Now let's see if I can make it even more of a hyperbole. And now the hedgehog is doing somersaults and cartwheels in there. Do you get the idea? So this writing is a suggestion that you can pick any mood that you're in or any feeling that you have, being ill, being excited, what about winning a race, opening presents, or maybe being sad about something, being very, very, very worried about something, being very angry about something. Now think about what image you're going to use to help you express that, just as Shakespeare did with the scorpions. What image? How about a dog jumping up and down and barking, or a cat sleeping? Or it could be something like fire blazing, or the wind blowing, a river flowing. That could be in your mind, or as Shakespeare says, is my mind. How about full of a cat sleeping is my mind, or full of fire blazing is my mind, full of a dinner hall of children shouting is my mind. And then you can go on to describe that cat, what the cat's doing, or what the fire is doing, or the children shouting, just as I did with the hedgehog. Yes? And remember, this poem can be as short or as long as you want.